Okay, let's unpack this. We're talking about the moment sound didn't just drop, but was um, fundamentally reborn
Yeah,
deep in a dusty Chilean club. And this isn't just a sleeting trend we're talking
not
about.
at all.
We are diving into one of the most, I think, foundational stories in modern electronic music. It's about the collision, the absolute necessity of that collision between Latin rhythm and European techno structure.
Right.
And it's embodied by two giants, Ricardo Villalobos and Luciano.
That is the perfect way to frame it. For you listening, this deep dive is. It's more than just a history of a genre. Our source material, which is this really in-depth analysis of their journey, their collaboration on Sense Club, it details how these two figures, well, they fused culture, body, time, and space.
And in doing so, created a blueprint.
The essential blueprint for modern minimal technos, absolutely.
And the sources, they really stress that this convergence wasn't just some, happy accident.
No, it felt inevitable.
It was an artistic inevitability, driven by displacement and this incredible shared experience. We're tracing a journey that started in Santiago, stretched all the way to Berlin, and then found its footing in Switzerland.
And that leads us to the central question we are exploring today, which is so critical. How did their unique, almost mirrored origins, one moving north, the other raced south, lead to a shared revolutionary musical language?
A language that literally transformed the modern dance floor.
Exactly. From just a playground into something genuinely spiritual, ritualistic.
Let's start with their dual roots because, you have to know the biography to understand the sound.
You really do.
So let's start with Ricardo Villalobos, born in Santiago, Chile, 1970. But his family was forced to move to Germany just 3 years later.
And that displacement, it isn't just a footnote in his story, it's the engine of his music.
Right.
He grew up in Germany, so he was completely immersed in the discipline of the Berlin club scene in the 90s.
The epicenter of techno.
The undisputed global epicenter. But our sources confirm he carried these faint echoes of his childhood, the rhythms of his birthplace, deep in his subconscious.
So on the surface, he's making this hyper-precise, almost mechanical German techno.
Yes.
But those inherited memories, that ghost of congas and bongos, they start to manifest as micro-percussion.
It's an auditory paradox. That's a great way to put it. When you listen to a Villalobos track, the main beat, the structure, is German. It's rigid.
Yeah.
But layered underneath it, subtly shifting everything, are these tiny, syncopated, distinctly Latin sounds. This is that body immersion the sources talk about.
It's all about time.
It's all about manipulating your perception of time. His tracks weren't built for a 4-minute radio payoff.
No. If you've ever been locked into one of his sets, you know exactly what we mean. You just stop looking at your watch.
You lose the clock entirely. Tracks like Halma or Kibeli Poke, they aren't just loops, they are long-form sonic architectures.
Designed to pull you in.
To pull you into a completely different stream of duration, forcing you to find the human element inside the machine.
Okay, now let's look at the other side of that coin. The mirrored path of Luciano, Lucien Nicolet.
Right.
Born in Switzerland in '78, but he spent his formative years, his whole youth, growing up in Chile.
So he went in the reverse direction. He internalized that rhythmic foundation first. His initial musical education wasn't synthesizers.
It was guitar.
It was guitar and classic Latin music. He absorbed the local rhythms, and then later, as a teenager, he discovered house, disco, and techno. And that's what allowed him to develop his own style, which the sources call warm minimalism.
And that word warm, that distinction is so crucial. How does that sound different from the colder, more mechanical minimal that was happening in Europe at the time?
Well, the warmth comes from how the rhythm is prioritized. It's prioritized over the sonic texture, where some German minimal can sound cold, calculated.
Metallic, even.
Metallic, exactly. Luciano's music felt elastic. It felt human, rooted in the physical sensation of dancing.
And he didn't just make the music, he built a home for it.
Absolutely. His label, Cadenza, became the institutional face of this entire idea. It was founded on the principle of merging that high-energy South American momentum with the coolness of European sound design.
And every track had this dialogue.
A constant dialogue with the dance floor. It was always about making sure the dancer's body was the absolute center of the experience.
Okay, so this is where it gets really, really interesting. The sources give us this incredible moment, their inevitable meeting.
In a Chilean club, late 90s.
Yeah. Villalobos is DJing. He's playing these intricate, time-stretching tracks, and Luciano hears it. And he just gets it. He recognizes that blend of European architecture and Latin rhythm instantly.
It was more than a handshake. It was like two halves of a single concept finally finding each other.
And they formalize this.
They formalize it into the joint project they called Sense Club. And the column we looked at describes it as being way more than just a musical collaboration. It was a conceptual laboratory for culture and the body.
And that's the major aha moment, right? That philosophical shift. Sense Club's core idea was that dancing is not just an action, but a ritual connecting culture and body.
Yes. They weren't there to just spin records. They were there to facilitate a transcendent cultural experience.
Through movement.
Through synchronized, immersive movement. And we have this fantastic, visceral anecdote that just perfectly illustrates this.
From the early live shows.
Yeah. Imagine a packed, sweaty club floor, maybe 300 people. Villalobos be running these incredibly long tracks, making only tiny micro adjustments to the EQ, the texture, never a quick peak or a big dramatic release.
So the structure holds, but the rhythm, it starts to breathe and stretch under your feet.
Precisely. And meanwhile, Luciano would be layering real-time percussion samples over the top.
The congas, the bongos.
Those deep-rooted Latin dynamics. So the crowd is getting the music from two directions at once. The analytical German precision from Villalobos and the fluid human warmth from Luciano.
Wow. I can almost feel that energy. So what was the result for the audience?
The sources say the audience danced for hours, completely dissolving their individual egos into this unified stream of time.
They weren't looking at the DJ.
They were looking inward, connected by the groove. That shared experience was the entire point. Dissolve the clock, dissolve the ego, and just leave the collective rhythm.
And that groundwork, it laid the foundation for their individual masterpieces in the early 2000s. Let's talk about Villalobos' 2003 masterpiece, El Pachofa.
Right, on the Perlon label.
An album that is just universally considered the moment minimal techno found its unique, sophisticated vocabulary.
Alcachofa didn't just demand patience from the listener. It demanded total surrender, both intellectual and physical. We're talking tracks that go well over 10 minutes.
Sometimes 15, 20 minutes.
And the rhythmic shifts are so gradual, so intertwined, that the dance floor stops being a casual space. It fully becomes that ritualistic space they talked about.
So how does he actually do that?
Yeah.
For someone who's maybe used to the immediate payoff of big room house, how does he use structure to manipulate time?
Okay, take a track like Fis Hoyer, Si Hoyer. It's a stunning example. It builds on this incredibly long, repeated percussion loop, but the other sonic elements unfold so slowly that you're literally pulled forward by time, almost against your will.
It's hypnotic.
The whole structure is designed to be hypnotic. You don't even notice the change until you're halfway through and you realize you're in a completely different sonic world.
It's subtle, but it works on you at a primal level.
It absolutely does. And then you have a track like Que Belle Epoque. It uses these irregular, almost stuttering percussion patterns to create this simultaneous tension and profound release on the dance floor. The music isn't just entertaining you.
It's working on you.
It's actively working on your psychology, forcing you to adjust your internal clock to its rhythm.
And while Villalobos was doing this deep intellectual dive into rhythm, Luciano was simultaneously building the home for this sound. Also in 2003.
He establishes the Cadenza label, based in Switzerland. And Cadenza quickly became the flagship for using that South American influence inside the minimal framework.
So you had the Latin warmth providing the energy.
The kinetic energy, yeah.
Yeah.
And that was juxtaposed with the European minimal coolness providing the clean sonic palette. It injected this totally fresh, necessary dose of rhythm into European clubs that had, arguably become a little bit too cold.
And how did Luciano's tracks differ from Villalobos' more heady approach? Did they feel more immediate?
They did. They absolutely did. Luciano's tracks often feel more propulsive, more groove-oriented. Think of an early cadenza track like Rise of Angel. It marries a deep, resonant bass line with this really complex, high-energy percussion. It's just pure motion. Or a track like No Friends, which was engineered less for meditation and more for, responsive, improvised dancing.
So they're building the same bridge.
The same cultural bridge, but Luciano's architecture often had a stronger pull towards the body.
Let's connect all of this back to the global impact. I mean, the meaning of their music, it really transcends just tempo and timing.
It does.
It was the absolute merging of Villalobos' German precision with Luciano's ingrained South American rhythm.
And that fundamentally reframed what a club was for. It stopped being just a dark room for hedonism. It became a place that visibly embodied culture, diaspora.
So by dancing, the audience was
Unconsciously balancing two global perspectives, the structural framework of the North and the rhythmic engine of the South.
And the high water mark for this, the essential listening, has to be the 2004 Sense Club Live set at Mutec Festival in Chile.
That set it's a foundational document, a 3-hour marathon. Villalobos maintained the structural discipline of the long tracks, while Luciano added these dynamic, improvised, real-time samples. Our sources confirm this was the moment that cemented it.
Cemented what exactly?
That the act of dancing, when done with this specific philosophy, was a profound cultural experience, not just individual fun.
And their tours were revolutionary. Berlin, Zurich, Santiago, New York. They proved that this deep, immersive, minimal sound that required patience, could thrive anywhere.
Totally displacing that short attention span culture that was emerging.
So if you had to synthesize their sound for us, boil it down, what are the core elements?
Okay, it comes down to 3 non-negotiable things. First, rhythm. The fusion of South American micro-percussion with rigid European minimal beats. Second, structure. The mandatory use of long-form tracks, 10 to 20 plus minutes, engineered for time and body immersion.
And the third element is the most important, isn't it?
It is, the cultural element. They built a tangible bridge between northern and southern club cultures. They showed that the most futuristic electronic music could only emerge when you balanced Latin warmth and techno precision.
So what does this all mean for you today? I mean, the influence is concrete. The sources confirm that their attempts, what they pioneered, it's undeniably alive in the DNA of today's tech house and minimal styles.
For sure. They gave an entire generation of producers the essential vocabulary.
The revolution they staged in the late 90s and early 2000s with their own work and with Sense Club, it wasn't just about making cool tracks.
No, it was a complete overhaul of how we should approach music, culture, and the bodily experience of dance. It's a timeless example of how cultural fusion can birth an entirely new artistic language.
It fundamentally shifted club culture from a space of consumption to a space of ritual. The music they left behind isn't just memory of the past.
It's a living key to understanding the future possibilities of electronic music and, really, the power of surrender. Their work remains the definition of enduring, visceral relevance.
And that leaves us with one final thought for you to consider as you explore their catalog. If their long-form tracks rely on subtle, repetitive rhythms to actively alter our perception of time, to pull us out of the real world and into that sonic vortex. What does that say about the role of patience and endurance in modern culture? What other art forms, a massive mural, an epic novel, a piece of architecture designed to move you slowly through it? What else requires you to completely surrender your sense of immediate duration to truly appreciate its deepest meaning?
Something to think about.
Something to think about next time you let a track play out for 20 minutes on the dance floor.